Inside of today's video, we're going to be ranking all 17 chromatic brawlers in the game right now. So whenever you're looking to purchase one of these brawlers, hopefully you'll be making the best decision with this list. Of course, with so many chromatics in the game right now, there's a lot of options to choose from. So just quickly, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's video. Hopefully we'll be getting the first mastery willow in the world. Of course, you can only get 6,000, so we've got to wait till tomorrow morning, but you don't want to miss that one. So before we jump into today's video, make sure you're using a creator code. That'd be greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's hop into it. So before we jump into the video, I just want to give a huge shout out to Archer Cat 2 for sponsoring today's video. The peace agreement between cat and witches has been broken. The cat kingdom is in turmoil. So join the cat archers and protect the peace of a cat's kingdom. Archer Cat 2 is a casual shooting defense game that gives you a great sense of accomplishment when you clear the stages in a single game. It doesn't take too much time to play, so it's easy to play when you're traveling or in a short break between your boring classes. It's so easy to control that you can play with one hand, and the best thing is that the UX is so easy to get used to, even if you don't play mobile games often. We're also glad to hear that there's an idle reward system, so you can even earn gold and grow when you're not playing. Another amazing thing about Archer Cat 2 is, of course, the main character, a cute cat. Who doesn't want to play as a cute cat? You can have lots of fun dressing up your cat with multiple costumes. So make sure to download Archer Cat 2 today using the link in the description below, and make sure to send me all your cool cats once you've downloaded the game. So starting off with the worst chromatic brawl in the game right now, no surprises whatsoever, we have Gale. So Gale was absolutely murdered with his balance changes, absolutely murdering his supercharge rate, murdering literally everything, his gadget. It just isn't a tank counter anymore. I literally advised the other day on my video to only really push him on maps that are really open, because you want to be actually using the other star powers. So basically, he's not a tank counter. I've never seen him in draft whatsoever in competitive in Power League. He's just terrible in this meta. So next up at number 16, we have Buster. So Buster has really fallen off, because considering it was easily the best brawler in the game for such a long time, now he's the second worst chromatic in the game. So by no means is he like unusable. In some instances he is pretty underrated because of his gadget, but for the most part he's just never really seen, only making the rare occurrence on maps like Crystal Arcade or Canal Grande. But yeah, Buster's just really like a super feeding machine. He really does lack the damage right now. So next up at number 15, we have Mandy. So Mandy is a brawler in the game right now which only has a few instances where you might use her, more so the longer range knockout maps, but still I don't feel that she's that type of brawler to just absolutely carry, because right now people have kind of learned how to dodge her super. It takes a really accurate Mandy to get a really good super off when it comes down to competitive. Maybe lower level it's pretty easy to hit that super, but still she's a little bit awkward to play, and a lot of people can just overwhelm her pretty quickly. So for me, Mandy isn't really too strong right now. So next up at number 14, we have Fang. So by no means again am I saying that Fang is like a terrible brawler. He has his instances where he can absolutely pop off. He's actually one of the more so fun brawlers in the game, but we're talking strictly competitive here, and Fang isn't really the brawler which you see often, except for maybe like a last pick. We're talking like Shooting Star, or maybe on a knockout map when there's multiple of those like sharpshooters. Then of course Fang can counter and play pretty well, but overall in comparison to other chromatics, he isn't really often used too much. He's not a brawler which I typically see and I'm pretty scared of. A lot of the times there's a lot of different gadgets and supers that can just easily counter Fang. The next up at number 13, we have Belle. So Belle by no means is trash, but she's just that decent brawler. She doesn't really excel in any game mode, but normally on a mid to long range map she's pretty decent. She's just good overall, but as I said, if you want a brawler that just dominates maybe in a few game modes or a few maps, Belle, I don't think she really has a map or mode that she just completely dominates on. So I mean, she's a pretty safe brawler to max out, but overall there's just better options. Next up at number 12, we have Colette. So bear one thing in mind with Colette, you definitely need her star power and gadgets for her to be anywhere near useful. So bear that in mind. If you don't have many power points, don't get her, but she's a really strong brawler once you get both her star powers, both of them, and her gotcha gadget. She's really good in heist, good in basketball right now, which of course may not be in the next rotation, so maybe be a little bit careful of that one as well. But she's somewhat underrated because of course she can completely shut down tanks. She's starting to creep into the meta in other game modes as well, but overall I think she's a fairly consistent brawler in heist, and that's a good reason to get her. So next up as the 11th best chromatic brawler in the game, we have Buzz. So the good thing about Buzz is that he has a really strong mechanic, especially in Showdown, being able to stun people. He's really fun, and he's actually one of the most versatile tanks because, of course, his grapple extends his range. You can play him pretty much anywhere because of this. So Buzz is always a fantastic brawler to consider unlocking, just because, again, he's actually one of the most played brawlers in Brawl Stars history. So just going to show that literally everyone loves, well, not everyone, the majority of people really love playing Buzz. He's an assassin. What isn't there to like about Buzz? Definitely consider picking him up. Next up is the 10th best chromatic brawler in the game right now. We have Sam. So the recent nerf to Sam actually did a lot more than I thought. It was only a small nerf to his super damage, but it definitely has knocked him a little bit from the meta, but he's still a really strong pick. Again, the best thing about Sam is that he has a little bit of range to his super, which he can help finish off certain kills on certain sharpshooters. He's pretty good, well, he's really strong on maps with a lot of walls, so that's why it's pretty good to get him unlocked. But of course, you need his star power, so bear that in mind. But Sam definitely is a really strong option to get as a chromatic brawler. Next up, as the 9th best chromatic brawler to unlock, we have Eve. So Eve is a super underrated brawler within the meta right now. She's usable literally everywhere, but of course her best maps are going to be maps with a lot of water, maps like Canal Grande, Nowhere to Hide. I highlighted this yesterday, but it's just really important because there's several maps in the game which Eve, you just desperately need an Eve because she's so flexible and can definitely dominate. There's a few showdown maps as well, which is really strong on, and as I mentioned, she's pretty easy to pick up and play because she's a long range brawler. Of course, you can play those brawlers pretty much anywhere, so she's definitely a safe one to unlock. So next up, as the 8th best brawler to unlock as a chromatic, we have Rufus. So Rufus is a brawler which a lot of people tend to forget about because he's that support brawler which often, unless you max him out, doesn't actually do a lot of damage. But for me, at the highest level, he's a fantastic option because there's certain maps in the game where his super can just break open a map and manipulate it the way you want. Those power-ups are going to be really good, especially if you can get a couple of going on your team. It's going to be really hard for the enemies to really deal with. Rufus is always that fantastic support brawler. There's several maps in the game where you really need a Rufus, especially a good defensive one that can just constantly spam out those supers to your team. So yeah, Rufus is a really good pick in this meta. Next up, as the 7th best brawler to unlock as a chromatic, we have Lou. So Lou is a brawler I always recommend unlock him, especially if you can get him towards his supercharged gear. I mean, that's asking a lot considering you need to wait until you're at least power 10, but once you get that unlocked, it becomes one of the best brawlers in the game, but specifically Hot Zone. He's so easy to push in this game mode in general. Literally, the dumbest of players can get this brawler really high because all you need is one super, a gadget, and you can just keep cycling. So Hot Zone, of course, is playground, but still, you can play Lou in other game modes, especially like Brawl to shut down certain tanks. You know, it's the biggest counter to a lot of the meta tanks right now, like Ashe, Buzz, Sam. So yeah, for me, Lou is definitely one of the strongest chromatics. Next up, as the 6th best chromatic in the game, we have Lola. So Lola's always seems to be this kind of forgotten about brawler. People tend to underrate her a lot, but within this meta, on so many open maps, she's such a fantastic pick. People just seem to forget how quickly she shreds people. You don't even have to have everything on her, you know, for example, star power, gear. You don't have to have everything on her because she still shreds just because of that ego. So she's a fantastic pick everywhere. As I mentioned, she's not the hardest brawler to pick up and play, and you can play on every single game mode as a mid in gem grab, as a mid in Brawl, or even a lane. You know, Hot Zone, she's a really good pick, and I've even seen her played in knockout and bouncy. So for me, Lola really flexible and definitely worthwhile picking. Next up, as the 5th best chromatic brawler to unlock, we have Surge. So especially when it comes down to the lower matchmaking, I think really up until you get up into legendary, Surge is a huge problem in Power League. If you don't know how to counter him properly, he's going to be that carry brawler. So for that reason, he's definitely a brawler. I would even say if you blow legendary in Power League, he's probably like the best one to unlock because he just has such big carry potential. He's actually a brawler as well, but it's been played, I think, like the 5th most throughout every single brawler. So everyone loves playing Surge. He's got such good, well, a really good gadget, a really good star power. Just everything about him is super strong. So next up, as the 4th best chromatic brawler, we have Ashe. So it depends where your level is. If you're just a player that consistently doesn't really play Power League too much and just wants to vibe on ladder, then Ashe I probably wouldn't recommend maxing out. But if you really want to get good at the game and want to play at the highest level, Ashe is a really top brawler, especially when you get into legendary leagues. A good Ashe can absolutely dominate. So he's got 2 pretty decent star powers, 1 good gadget, and overall he's that carry brawler, as I mentioned. Like, he's that tank that can just deal with everything. And what I've mentioned before as well in the past is that the thing about Ashe, what makes him so good, is that he can actually win every matchup. Even with his hardest counters, his super can help manipulate that matchup. So for me, he's definitely a dangerous brawler and definitely worth maxing out. Next up, as the 3rd best chromatic brawler in the game right now, we still have Otis. So Otis, even after several nerfs, he still continues to be one of the best brawlers in the game. He's just good against everything. He's good against range, he's good against tanks, of course, countering them with his super, and just overall he's just so versatile. Just range units, body range brawlers are just so good at just playing in every single map and mode, because of course they're really versatile. They don't need walls, they can just work their way around the map pretty easily. So Otis is a fantastic brawler to max out, and the best thing about him, of course, he's pretty easy to pick up and play. You only really need to know a few things about him. Anyone can pick up and play Otis. So for me, he's definitely a brawler worthwhile unlocking. So next up, as the 2nd best chromatic brawler in the game right now, we have the brand new one, RT. So RT, I don't think he's like ridiculously broken or anything, but he's definitely strong. The best thing about RT is that he can deal with multiple brawlers. So the fact that he can deal with range brawlers, of course, in his first form, and then if an aggressive brawler wants to get close to him, he's got his super to safeguard himself against them. So he's just really versatile against multiple brawlers. So he can't really be fully hard countered, and he's really strong in multiple game modes as a mid, as a lane, and of course, as I mentioned, he's got a broken super. You can delete people so quickly. So RT is definitely worth unlocking. And finally, moving on to the best chromatic brawler in the game right now, we have Janet. So Janet will always be consistently a top 10, top 5 brawler in the game. Even if assassins were literally all the best brawlers in the game, she'll still be really versatile. She's got really good HP, really good damage. She's got a really consistent gadget as well, which can help her in multiple matchups. And of course, her super can be used just to get away from certain scenarios. So once you got your super to hand, you can be so aggro, then when you're about to die, just pop your super and get out of there. So she's just good against everything. There's not really the truest, most hardest counters out there for Janet, because again, even tanks she can still escape with maybe her other gadget and her super. So she continues to be one of the best brawlers in the game up until I don't even know whether she'll get a nerf, because it's been so long since she's been at the top. Maybe she's just going to stay there. That's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed this one. So let me know who you think is the best chromatic brawler to unlock, if you've got them all unlocked already. Of course, there's a few things to consider: whether the brawler is fun, whether they're actually good within your skill range, or the potential of the brawler. So of course, try to weigh that in as much as possible, and while still considering like the actual best, because of course you got to judge that at the highest levels. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. To be honest, there's only really like one brawler who I won't want to unlock ever, and that is Gale. So all of them you can have that fun with them for sure. So that's gonna be it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.